Okay, most welcome to this slightly more detailed press briefing compared to what you just heard at the big meeting. It's with me, it's with the Swedish Defense Minister Micael Johansson and the CEO of Saab, Micael Johansson. And first and foremost, today's announcement on GlobalEye is a great day for NATO, a great day for Saab, but also a great day for Sweden. As Prime Minister, I'm immensely proud of our strong Swedish defense industrial base with engineering skills that have developed over many, many decades. When Sweden joined NATO slightly more than 2 years ago, this spirit of innovation, of engineering, and of industry tradition also joined NATO. I said back then that Sweden joining NATO brings geography and capability to NATO, and that an important part of that capability lies in hundreds of large and small, old and new defense industry companies. And increasingly, they combine legacy production skills with super modern technology. Sweden is actually one of few nations in the world that can design and produce a wide array of advanced defense equipment. Fighter jets, surveillance aircrafts, submarines, artillery systems, and combat vehicles, just to mention a few examples. With the GlobalEye system, NATO now gets a new airborne early warning and control system with world-class performance. It is a great example of international cooperation between NATO allies to build a state-of-the-art product. For Sweden, security and competitiveness are two sides of the same important coin. You cannot have one without the other. That is why my government is doing a historic build-up of Sweden's military and civil defenses. We are committed to doing our share of the ongoing burden shifting. But at the same time, we are also securing qualified jobs and domestic competitiveness, not through government subsidies, but through supporting Swedish companies in their efforts to export. In recent years, this has been extremely successful. Since 2023, the Swedish defense industry has grown by more than 50%, and export has increased by 70%, creating tens of thousands of important full-time jobs, many of them in rural areas outside of the major cities. And as Europe's perhaps most free-trading country, we join forces with friends and allies in other countries. Recent Swedish export, such as combat vehicles, submarines and Gripen fighter jets, will generate yet other thousands of jobs during their life cycle programs, spanning from engineering to manufacturing and tech, both in Sweden and across allied nations. It is important to state that this ongoing strengthening of Europe's military capabilities does not only benefit European allies, it also benefits American allies. Beyond making us all safer, the European build-up is also sustaining almost 200,000 American jobs in the defense sector, as Secretary General Mark Rutte announced just a few weeks ago. Over to you, Micael Johansson.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Today's decision by NATO to choose GlobalEye as is significant for the alliance. It's significant for Sweden, but it is also significant for the transatlantic defense industrial base. So this is, of course, a collaboration between Bombardier of Canada and Saab of Sweden. So this also means that Sweden also contributes even more to NATO's ability to deter and defend. And for over 40 years, the AWACS fleet has been the eyes in the skies of the alliance. That mission still remains very important, but the threat has evolved and is ever-changing. Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine has shown that what modern warfare looks like. Large missile salvos, cruise missiles flying on a low altitude, drones launched in waves. At sea, we see sabotage, threats to critical infrastructure on the seabed, the shadow fleet, and underwater activity. This all means that we have to evolve and we have to adopt, and the GlobalEye is all about adopting to a new and more complex security environment and a very complex battlefield that we are exposed to. The GlobalEye is an airborne early warning and control system. In simple terms, it sees far, it sees across several domains, and it helps commanders make early and well-informed decisions. It can monitor the air, the sea, the land at the same time. It can detect and track aircraft, missiles, drones, ships, and moving ground targets. At sea, it's designed to detect very small objects. But the real value of the GlobalEye is not just what it sees, but also what it can connect. It can turn separate sensors into shared operational pictures. It helps aircraft, ships, air defense units, command centers to have a common situational awareness, which is absolutely critical in modern warfare. The GlobalEye is, of course, developed and integrated by Saab, but it's also built on the Canadian Bombardier Global aircraft, and it includes subsystems from many allied countries, which is, of course, very significant. Now, NATO has chosen GlobalEye as its future airborne surveillance and control capability. That means that Swedish technology will help protect allied airspace. It means that Swedish workers and engineers contribute directly to NATO's collective security. And it means that Sweden, as the newest ally inside NATO, is not only strengthened by NATO, but we actually bring things to the table and we strengthen the alliance as such. So this is a proud day for Sweden, but above all, it's an important day for NATO's ability to deter and defend and maintain the peace within the Euro-Atlantic security area. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and thank you, Defense Minister Micael Johansson, for your introduction, and also, I must say, for your leadership in bringing Sweden's defense and security agenda forward. That is really important to us as a company, of course. This is a huge day for Saab, a big day for us, and also for Sweden and the alliance, has been said many times. We, of course, welcome the Secretary General's announcement today about GlobalEye as the next generation airborne early warning and control system for NATO. That is a decision that will safeguard our collective defense for decades to come. It is a testament to how Swedish engineering and excellence, how good it is, and international collaboration. And also pragmatic solutions, how they come together to create a world-class product like the GlobalEye. So why the GlobalEye? Well, to me, it's simple. The platform delivers proven capability, unmatched adaptability. It's a software-defined system. It's a long-term operational advantage that you will have with this system. And it brings a new level of performance, higher altitude, wider range, a modern suite of sensors, active and passive sensors in a very complex environment, and it is in production and can be delivered fast. With fewer crew, advanced automation will let each operator in the aircraft manage a vast larger flow of information, turning raw data into a decisive insight faster than ever before, using data fusion and AI. But as our defense minister said, what truly sets the GlobalEye apart is actually its multi-domain awareness. With traditional airborne early warning and control aircraft, they have been focused primarily on the air domain, and the air picture, GlobalEye simultaneously surveils maritime and land domains from a single platform, of course, including the air domain. And this result is a persistent, real-time, integrated operational picture that gives our commanders the clarity they need to detect, track, and identify emerging threats, whether they are drone swarms, as the defense minister said, it could be ballistic missile or cruise missile, and it works also in contested, electronically challenged environments, which is a very important part. So the decision to select GlobalEye was driven by three pillars as I see it. It is, of course, about excellent capability, but also affordability and timely delivery. And the system has already proven itself. Unfortunately, you would say, looking at the world how it is, it's been detecting and identifying complex threat under real conflict conditions already for a long time. And it is designed future-proof to build and guarantee that NATO will have a surveillance and warning capability credible all the time as we speak. I want to acknowledge Sweden's leadership again and the coalition of allies, of course, who have stepped forward in this effort. Together we will deliver a success story that embodies the alliance's spirit of collaboration and mutual defense. And we are, of course, as a company, eager now to move into the next phase of negotiation and eventually begin to deliver these aircrafts to the alliance. And it will ensure that NATO can respond swiftly and decisively to the evolving threats. I must say in closing that this announcement is really big to Sweden and Saab, and it sort of confirms by working together across many countries, we can innovate, we can protect, and we can secure a safer future for us for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Tack, Micael. And now we open the floor for questions, and I think Tom will lead that, and we will combine this, these microphones. Tom.
Wait for the microphone when it comes. We can start with Pia Gripenberg in the first row over there.
Hi, Pia Gripenberg, Dagens Nyheter, Sweden. When will these flights be delivered? And also, what will this mean for jobs in Sweden? Will they be produced in Sweden, or will the production be elsewhere, please?
I think the Prime Minister is directing who will answer the questions, apparently. Now, if NATO contracts us quickly, it will be able to deliver these to start the deliveries in 2030. When it comes to jobs, we will, of course, increase our capacity now as a company. That will mean jobs in Linköping, Sweden, and also Gothenburg, Sweden, on the sensor side. I can't sort of quantify it, but it's hundreds of jobs at least. But we will also build a hub, a capacity to manufacture aircraft in Canada, since they have selected this capability as well. And as you know, we have already a contract with France, so they will do parts as well with the company Sabena Techniques. All in all, we will need all three sort of hubs to increase the capacity, but it's going to generate jobs, of course. Yeah.
We'll take the second row, the gentleman there.
Thanks for the question. Thomas Kutschka with Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. The original call for proposals by NATO was for 10 to 12 aircraft. Now, the announcement this morning has been for up to 10. Can you please clarify what this really means? So I guess it's a pricing issue. Have you agreed on the price with the nations that are collaborating on this? Can you reveal it? And what does up to 10 mean? Is there not, in the end, the risk that NATO ends up with less aircraft than it actually needs? Thank you.
Well, the number of aircraft, of course, depends on the concepts of operations. And roughly 10 aircraft is the initial capability that we have been discussing. And then the pricing has not finally been agreed because there's no contract yet, but as I've said in other interviews, depending on configuration and also the infrastructure setup and all that, roughly 400 to 450 million US per aircraft. That's sort of the magnitude, but that doesn't mean we have a finally agreed price. But roughly 10 aircraft, but that's also, of course, not sort of a price issue. So I see it, what I've heard, is more about the concepts of operations.
Okay, we'll take the lady in the front row over here, dark hair.
Thank you. Charlie Hancock, Moscow Times, independent Russian media in exile in the Netherlands. Mr. Johansson, Ukraine wasn't able to intercept any missiles during Sunday night's horrible attack on major Ukrainian cities. Largely that was attributed to a lack of Patriot missiles. Is the Pearl program fit for purpose for getting Ukraine the equipment it needs quickly enough? And if I may, on the Gripen program, with the Meteor missiles, Ukraine would be able to strike targets within not only occupied Ukraine, but Russia itself. Would Sweden allow Ukraine to do that?
Well, just coming home from Ukraine, spending 5 days there last week, let me say, of course, the situation is dire when it comes to handling the ballistic missiles. We just a few weeks ago made the pledge to a new Pearl packages. Our experience is that the Pearl packages are very important because they provide pack trees to handle the incoming ballistic missiles. So my understanding, and when I talk to my Ukrainian colleagues, they say that the Pearl packages are very important. Of course, with Lockheed Martin is closely advised to scale up production of pack trees in order to handle it. But the Pearls are delivering. That was the message I was getting from the Ukrainian side. Then you asked about the Gripen fighters, and they have long-range air-to-air capabilities, which also could, for example, include Meteor, the glide bombs that the Ukrainian armed forces are exposed to that could force the Russian Air Force to move further away as well. So that is certainly an incentive, of course, for the Ukrainian side also to obtain the Gripen system. As you know, our objective is to provide the first Gripens early next year, and training is, of course, being undertaken as we speak. Ukraine has the right to defend itself inside and outside of its territory according to international law, of course.
Thank you. Next question goes to the lady in the end of the first row. Yes.
Hi, Elizabeth Gosling-Malo from Breaking Defense. My question is for the Swedish Prime Minister. Earlier during the announcement, I just wanted to clarify, you said that we would see the GlobalEyes operating from Swedish bases starting from 2027, if I understood that correctly. And now we were talking about delivering the aircraft to NATO by 2030. Can you clarify what you meant by that?
Well, I just stated the fact that we use them ourselves as well. And we have a generational shift from the old model to GlobalEye, and that has been going on for the last years, and they will be operational early next year. Yeah.
And would there ever be plans to create sort of a GlobalEye hub for NATO inside of Sweden, or they would just be dispersed where operations are needed?
Above my pay level, please.
Well, these GlobalEyes are, of course, the 10 GlobalEyes are supposed to be operating from Germany. Then, of course, we have procured 3 GlobalEyes, getting the first one from starting from early 2027, which will be operating from Sweden. So there's both bilaterally, countries are procuring from Saab, and then we have the pooling and sharing arrangement with up to 10 GlobalEyes within the confines of, under the authority of SACEUR, of course.
Thank you. Next question goes to TV4, first row here.
I have a question for Mr. Micael Johansson. You mentioned that the GlobalEye had already proved itself in conflict situation. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Well, obviously, I mean that it's been flying 24/7 during the Iran conflict in the Middle East. But it's been flying in the Middle East to check threats for a long time. But that's apparently a conflict where it's been used a lot.
And did you get a report back from the United Arab Emirates about how it performed?
Absolutely. We get lots of information on all our systems, how they are being used, both in Ukraine and in the Middle East. So that's important feedback, yeah. But it's been working tremendously well.
Thank you.
Okay, we will take the gentleman over here.
Thank you for the question. Lauri Nurmi, NATO correspondent, Iltalehti, Finland. A question for Micael Johansson and question for Prime Minister Christensen. This announcement NATO and Saab has made today are about deterrence, and our potential adversary is Russia. Micael Johansson, could you please convince us why the technologies Saab has developed are better than the technologies the Russians have? Why GlobalEye? And Ulf Kristersson, why Sweden is so strongly committed to weaponizing Ukraine, sending Gripens, even new Gripens to Ukraine? Why so? Thank you very much.
Well, convincing everybody about the fantastic technology is, of course, seeing is believing, but that's why it's important to say it's been used already in sort of really difficult sort of environments, electronically challenged, and also finding very small targets like drones and missiles at the same time, tracking more than 2,000 tracks at the same time. So it is fantastic sensor capability, but also the whole thing about understanding that situation awareness picture to do the right things with your fighters or with ground air defense systems or whatever you need to use to counter the threats. I mean, this aircraft has no weapons on it. It's all about gathering a situational awareness picture from the best sensor technology, best way of fusing information to give a proper picture to the end user and then do something about it. And it's been proven in many ways. For a while, this was the only platform that could actually find drones coming into the UAE airspace. So that's why they flew it all the time. So what can I say? We have excellent technology in several areas, and we are able to do sort of a pragmatic integration of all that to give the best situation awareness.
Simply the best, you know. Yeah. Well, just to add on that, I think if you combine the Swedish maritime resources, not least the submarines, and then the GlobalEye and the Gripen fighters, I think it's fair to say that in our part of the world, including Europe, the Baltic Sea has never been as protected and as surveilled as it is right now, and for good reasons, because it hasn't been as challenged as it is today either. So there is I think we are answering to the challenges we are facing. Your other question, those of you who have followed the needs of Ukrainian air defense for the last 4 years, you know the story behind this. Sweden was part of what we called at the time the F-16 coalition, mainly bringing a limited but still numbers of F-16 fighters to Ukraine. And Sweden was part of that effort, and we united for that not at that time deliver also Gripen fighters, because not to complicate the introduction of two complex systems at the same time. What we did do instead was providing them the predecessor to GlobalEye, so which enhanced the F-16 capabilities that they actually got from other countries. And now, when we agreed with Ukraine for them to purchase in the long-term procurement of basically a new air force in Ukraine, that was also a natural way for us to speed it up. So while Paul made the agreement on 16 new Gripen fighter of the new generation, for the longer term, we also provide them with 16 of pre-owned or pre-used fighters as well. And I think it's obvious, you know, Ukraine is in dire needs of strengthening the air defense. We see that every night, basically. The Pearl packages is one part of that, but in the long run, they also need to have a stronger air force.
Thank you. Next question to the woman in red here.
Thank you. News agency Interfax, Ukraine, Irina Sommer. I know, a little bit theoretical question, but can the capacity of GlobalEye extend outside of NATO territories? I'm talking about Ukraine, to make Ukrainians be more capable to protect their own territory. And if this decision up to alliance, will be Sweden in favor of it? Thank you.
I mean, from a range perspective and how far it can see in the air domain and before sort of the curvature of the Earth starts sort of affecting how far you can see, of course you can see far into Ukraine and far into Russia as well, for that sake, if you fly at the proper place, but not too close to hostilities. So that's absolutely possible. So that's what I can say about that. That's why it's so important to be far away, but still see small things at the right place.
So the idea with providing them with IRI, the predecessor of GlobalEye, was also that it can use link 16, of course, and conduct the connectivity and the command and control from the air together with the F-16. Therefore, we focus on providing the Ukrainians with the IRI and waited with the Gripen fighter. So we did it in that kind of sequence. And of course, it provides the Ukraine with a much better sea surveillance and situational awareness, both in the land domain and in the aerial domain.
Thank you. We'll have time for a final question before we break for single interviews. I can say that all speakers will remain for single interviews as well, but we can take the gentleman in the shirt here.
Yes, Minister Johnson or Prime Minister Christofferson. On the F-16 and the Gripen, do you think in hindsight it has been a mistake to focus on the F-16 and wait with the Gripen? Do you think it would have been better if decisions would have been otherwise?
Well, from my perspective, it was not a mistake. And there were limitations in terms of pilots, in terms of introductionary capacity in Ukraine. So I think it was when we made the decision to provide them with the ERI instead, that in itself increased the capabilities of the F-16. So I think it was... But I still have to say that when we had Volodymyr Zelensky in Uppsala a few weeks ago, and we met the first fighter pilots after being training on the Gripen fighter, and he had been for 200 missions in a MiG, and now for 5 kind of test flights with the Gripen, and he told me and President Zelensky, this is a game changer.
Thank you. And with that, we break for single interviews. The speakers will remain dispersed here on stage, so please form queues.
Thank you.